Hello. Today we're going to be talking about the most famous exploring party in American history, us, along with our 50-member Corps of Discovery. But before we jump in, let's go back to where it all started. In the early 19th century, the ruler of France, Napoleon Bonaparte, sent forces to reconquer the island of Hispaniola. Rebellious slaves in Saint-Domingue defeated those forces.
Basically, France was embarrassed that they couldn't control one island, so Jefferson took advantage of the vulnerability and went after their territory in North America. As one of his top priorities to have control over the port of New Orleans, Jefferson saw an opportunity here to buy land. Lucky for Jefferson, the French were interested in selling. They needed the money because they were at a war with Great Britain at the time.
Jefferson's first offer of $2 million was rejected. He tried again with an offer of $10 million, which was accepted. For $5 million more, the French threw in the rest of the Louisiana Territory.
The purchase ended up around 828,000 square miles of new land.
Within a year of purchasing, Jefferson launched an expedition which was led by me, Meriwether Lewis,
and me, William Clark. Lewis is a former soldier and was Jefferson's personal secretary, so Jefferson trusted him with this responsibility. We had two main objectives.
The scientific side was to study the area's plants, animals, and geography. The commercial side was to discover the region's strengths for economic exploitation. Jefferson also hoped we would establish trade with Western Indians and locate a water route to the Pacific Ocean. This would open up a business opportunity with Asia.
In the spring of 1804, Lewis and I, along with 50 members which we called our Corps of Discovery, left from St. Louis on the Missouri River. We had been preparing for that day since the previous fall. We traveled aboard a keelboat and two pirogues. I spent my time charting our course and making maps.
Every time we were ashore, I studied rocks, the plants, soil, and animals. We all were always on the lookout for Indians, but by the end of July, we still hadn't met one.
Then there came August with the Otto and Missouri Indians. It was a friendly encounter and we exchanged gifts. What we were really anticipating was the Sioux tribe.
Jefferson said that making a friendly impression on that powerful tribe was very important. We first encountered the peaceful Yankton Sioux, who said our disappointing gifts would not be received well with the Teton Sioux farther up the Missouri River.
Things didn't go well, and Jefferson's hope for friendly relations with the Sioux had failed. We quickly headed up the river away from our frenemies and into winter.
That winter, we learned a lot about the West from the Mandan and the Hidatsa. We wrote reports and sent them off, with about a dozen of our men, back to St. Louis. The rest of the men boarded with supplies and equipment to continue into territory where no American had ever gone before. We now had the help from 15-year-old Sacagawea of the Shoshone to act as our guide and interpreter.
After this, the river divided and we had to make a decision. We both thought that the southern branch would lead us to the Rockies, but the rest of the men thought we should take the northern branch. We couldn't afford to make any mistakes. We were so close.
So I took 3 men up the southern branch in search of the Great Falls. That was when I knew we were on the Missouri, and we soon rejoined Clark.
This was probably the hardest task of the trip. Getting around the Great Falls took more than a month because of shallow water with jutting rocks, but now we could cross the Continental Divide to the Columbia River.
This trek, however, meant we needed horses, and that meant we needed to find Sacagawea's tribe, the Shoshone. I spotted an Indian on horseback that led us to his chief, who was actually Sacagawea's brother, Kamiue. We bargained, with the help of Sacagawea, for horses.
I offered my knife, pistol, and 100 rounds of ammo for one horse, which wasn't even in that great of condition, but we did get information about a path that led across the Continental Divide, over the mountains, and into the Bitterroot Valley. There, we met Flathead Indians whom we bought more horses from. We set up camp near the Clearwater River.
Eventually, in November, we made it to the Pacific, where we would spend a boring winter in Fort Clatsop. However, we did encounter Indians that had already dealt with European traders and were connected with global markets. They failed to tell us when ships would port, however.
We left home on March 23rd, battling Columbia's current and the Chinook Indians' harassment. We ended up abandoning our canoes for horses acquired by the Walla Walla tribe.
The snow made it difficult to travel, so we returned to the Nez Perce. Some of their guides led us into the mountains. Once we reached Traveler's Rest, Clark and I parted ways to explore the territory. I took 9 men to the Marias River, and Clark and others headed to the Yellowstone River.
Then one day while hunting, I shot an elk, or what I thought was an elk. Instead, I accidentally hit Lewis's left thigh. Our groups were reunited, and we continued on the Missouri.
Back at the Mandan villages, I healed. We then left, leaving some of our own members in Sacagawea behind.
Then finally, on September 23rd, we disembarked at St. Louis. It only took us 2 years, 4 months, and 10 days to do so.
Although we failed to find a commercial route to Asia, we brought back journals filled with information about the region and new plant and animal life, as well as Indian culture. Well, I think that about does it. I'm Meriwether Lewis.
And I'm William Clark.
See ya!